We just saw how we can add in some checks to make sure we never place some null value or undefined value inside of a table. But there might be some scenarios where we just don't really know what to put in for a particular value. So in those cases, we can provide a default for a column value. Let's say that we're trying to put in a new product, and maybe we don't know what price to put in at the very get-go. So rather than putting in a value of null, we could use a default instead. And maybe the default would be something like, who knows, 9999, just to make sure that we don't put in a price that is too low. We can use this default value anytime that we insert a row into a table if we do not provide a value for that particular column. So let's take a look at how to set up a default value. All right, so once again, we've got how to add this new rule in when we are first creating the table, or alternatively, after the table was created. So if we want to make sure that we've got a default value for price, we would say price integer default 9999. So that means that if we do not provide a price, then we're going to use a default value instead of 99999. Same thing over here on the right-hand side as well. That's pretty much it. So let's try setting up this new rule. We're going to use a default on the price column of the products table. So back over at my query tool, I'm going to do an alter table products. I'm going to alter column price, and we're going to set default and then put in the value that we want to use for the default. So set default 999 like so. So I can run that. Looks good. And now we can add in a new product to our table without a price. And if we don't, we'll just get that default value instead. So I'll do an insert into products. We're going to provide a name, department, and weight. And we're going to insert the values. How about gloves, tools, and then a weight of 1. So I'm going to run that. Everything looks good, even though we did not provide a price. So technically, our insertion statement right here did not satisfy the not null constraint that we had just set up. But in this case, we set up the default. So even though we provided a null value, the default kicked in. We got that value of 999, and our product successfully was added. So now we can take a look at our products table. There's gloves right there, and we've got the default price of $999. All right, so that looks good. Now, along with assigning a number value, if we are setting up a default for, say, a varchar column or a text column or a date or a boolean, we could put the appropriate type inside of here. So for example, if we were setting up the default for varchar, we would put in a default value of a string instead. So something like a string. If it was for a boolean column, we could put in a default of true or false. And for maybe a time, we could put in a default time. Maybe 0001 a.m. in the morning, or something like that. Okay, so that's how we set up a default. Quick pause right here. Continue in just a minute.